Hello and welcome back to the Smart Start Recreational Therapy Insights YouTube channel. This is week number 15, guys, and let me tell you, there has been a lot of content and a lot of editing and things that I have learned that has gone into making these episodes. I am interested, if any of you guys are interested as well, to interview some recreational therapists who work in the variety of settings in our field that might be able to share some more insights, seeing that, I am no longer a practitioner, I'm more of on the education side. I would love to see what you guys have to say. Maybe we can learn together and educate the rest of the field. So if you are interested, please message me at Nathan, so at my email address, Nathan, so Nathan, at smartceushub.com, and I will be glad to collab with you and kind of tell you more about what we have the different episodes in the future and see which ones you might be interested in speaking about. I will also put this on YouTube or on Facebook as well, for those rec therapists that are on Facebook, to see which ones they'd be interested in speaking about. But episode number 15, y'all. And today we are going to be talking about pediatrics and recreational therapy. Last week we talked about geriatrics and recreational therapy, so we're going to the other side of the spectrum. So there are a lot of recreational therapists that work with kids, and the needs for kids and what goes into providing good quality recreational therapy for kids is what I'm aiming to talk about with this episode. So some really important key aspects of working with kids. It will require creativity on your part, flexibility, because you have to be able to adapt, right, and play-based approach. So kids at this stage in their life and their development do a lot of learning and expression, etc., through the act of play. So this is especially important for this population. So we'll be talking about specifically different play therapy approaches for recreational therapists to utilize in their practice. So let's jump right in, and without further ado, here we go. So we're going to first lay out the foundation for understanding pediatric populations in RT. So you might work with children with developmental delays, so kids that have Down syndrome, autism spectrum disorder, cerebral palsy, various learning disabilities, and along this pathway while they're kids, some of these things are just being noticed for the first time by their family members, and some of them are more obvious. But some of these things are new, and so they're going to do a lot of educating the family as well as providing the therapy. So you could be working in pediatric behavioral health as well. So one of my jobs that I held previously was working in a behavioral health hospital, and we had a pediatric unit. And on the pediatric unit, kids were as young as like 3-4 years old, and they were there for behavioral issues. Some of them, you're really concerned about. Give you one instance and one story. This isn't for everybody, but so there was this one little girl who, at 3 years old, took her cat, disemboweled the head off the cat, and was playing with it like a stuffed animal. So this is a very serious thing, behavioral health for kids, and you're like, okay, that's not typical 3-year-old behavior. So that was an interesting case that I came across while I was working in behavioral health. So things like that. It gets pretty crazy. So you might also work with physical disabilities. So some recreational therapists specifically work with kids who have spinal cord injuries or spinal cord differences, muscular dystrophy, or limb differences. So maybe they were born with one hand, and maybe a stub or something on the other side. And your goal for that type of therapy will be, how can I integrate them into society using what they have, right? They have one hand and then maybe a stub, and how can we get them to be able to do the things that they need to do or what to do, given that's who they are. So chronic illnesses or hospitalized children. So this gets really, really sad when you see a kid who's in the hospital already struggling with like cancer or, cystic fibrosis or other long-term health conditions, and they're just starting out in their life, and you're like, why? And that's the question that I always asked, was like, why? But the fact is that you might be working with these populations as a recreational therapist. So your goal is to be as educated, informed, and ready to go as possible, showing compassion and being able to be that asset to that kid along the way. So, all right, some key benefits to RT, working with children. So working with children and specializing in RT, we have some superpowers here because we get a lot of education and background information on play therapy and using recreation and leisure activities to achieve certain results. So I feel pediatric therapy for for kids using recreational therapy is crucial. It's in our wheelhouse. It's what we feel confident in. So there's a lot of benefit that can be seen here. So with physical development, some benefits might be we might be working to improve fine and gross motor skills, strength and coordination with different various ability levels with kids, social and emotional growth. So how to integrate into society, how to be appropriate for your age, and how to build friendships. So interacting with other kids, manage your emotions so you don't have outbursts, and develop confidence and assertiveness so that you can make your needs known and met. Some cognitive and academic support, we might be doing that as well. So, we might be looking at how to solve problems on your own. So a kid, might have a physical difference, and we are trying to teach them how to accomplish something, given that they might have more difficulty when someone who has, let's say they have one arm and somebody has two arms and they're able to do certain things. How can they problem solve to be able to accomplish this thing so they can live the most fulfilled life they can? So it could be creativity. So we might use play interventions. Games is a lot of times what we might use with kids. Imagination. So putting ourselves into scenarios and putting them into scenarios where we're interacting and seeing how they interact. And through these imaginary scenarios, we might be working on a social skill development. So reinforcing something, while they're going through play, and we might make it fun so they might remember it. And the goal would be to do this repetitively so that that becomes almost the first thought that they have when faced with that social scenario in real life. Therapeutic play and coping skills. So behavioral health, this is a big one, right? Supports children dealing with stress. So when they're really stressed out, how do they handle the stress? How do they not do self-destructive behaviors? How do they get to a calm place and redirect? So recreational therapists will be working with them to learn basic redirection and emotional regulation skills. So, but that'll help them to function better in a group setting with other kids. So if they're in school or they're at church or wherever else they might be, where there's other kids around, how to integrate and respond appropriately when dealing with their emotions. So unlike traditional therapy, Recreational therapy focuses on engagement through fun, creative, and meaningful activities, which make the kid want to do the thing. And at their age, as you know, that is all what it's mostly all about. I have a 5-year-old girl, and she wants to play all the time. And through those play activities, we were teaching her all types of things. Just yesterday, we were doing a puzzle. So we're doing like problem solving and figuring out, shape recognition and all the basics, right? So that she can see something in the end that she wants to see, which would be the finished product of the puzzle. So with recreational therapy, I feel like we're the perfect fit of the type of therapy for kids. Whether you agree or disagree, please let me know in the comments. But I personally agree wholeheartedly, and I think that's one area that we excel in. All right, so we're going to move on to key strategies on engaging children in RT. So how do we get them to participate? How do we get them to learn? How do we get them to grow? So engaging children in recreational therapy requires a different approach compared to working with adults. And here are some key differences or key strategies that we can use. So we're going to use play as the primary therapeutic tool. Okay, so play being the thing that kids are most interested in, it is going to be the most effective therapeutic tool to work on various goals with them. So games and imagination. So that's the first thing right off the bat. We talked a little bit about the imagination of kids. At their stage, they're perceiving the world various ways. The world is very small a lot of times, right? But they might see cartoons, or they might see, other things where their imagination kind of goes wild. They might have an imaginary friend. They might, be playing house because they see that their mom and dad, are married, and they're like, oh, I know one day I want to get married, so I'm going to play house or play with their Barbies like my daughter does, or whatever else, right? So, like some ideas that you can use, obstacle courses. So where they're put into a scenario where they have to problem solve to get to the end. When they're faced with something difficult or hard during the obstacle course, how do they respond? And our goal will be to help them to learn how to respond appropriately in that scenario. Maybe rescue missions or yoga turns into animal poses. We make it fun. We're like, okay, we're going to do the giraffe, y'all. We're going to do this. And it's more about the stretching or more about the strength building that yoga brings, but we're making it fun and based off of what the kid at their level will be interested in. Another big aspect for recreational therapists is that we follow the child's lead. So kids a lot of times are all over the place, and I can talk about my daughter. She's 5 years old. I mentioned that earlier. So she loves Legos. She loves art. She loves like drawing, painting. She was trying to do sculpture yesterday. She was trying to figure out how to make a face. And she was getting really frustrated because she was like, I don't know if I'll ever be able to do this right. And I'm like, Izzy, that's her name is Izzy. Like, nobody started out perfect at anything, right? It all takes practice and learning. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to try this together. I'm going to show you where I'm at. And I'm not a very good sculpturist myself. Sculptor. I don't know what the term is. But I'm not very good at it. But I was like, I'm going to make a sculpture of your face. And so I started doing that and using little tools to try to like make her eyes and her mouth and her nose. And my daughter has bangs, so I was like giving her bangs. And, it was really bad, honestly. Nobody should see my art. But anyways, when she saw that her dad isn't perfect at it, I think that gave her a little more confidence knowing that she doesn't have to be perfect at it either. There's a lot of people that are much better at things than I am. And I think that, shows her that she doesn't have to be perfect at everything that she tries right off the bat. So that might be something you might want to do, and you might to adapt the activity. So the point is they are adapting the activity based off of what they're interested in. Okay, you might have the same goal in mind, but maybe they just changed it all of a sudden. They're like, we're going to go do this. We're going to play in the backyard. We're going to do this instead. Or we're going to, whatever the thing is. But we're still going to be trying to work on those goals. We're going to think creatively ourselves to do those things. And then we're going to make it fun. Obviously, the endorphins and the dopamine hit that comes when a kid accomplishes a goal, when we accomplish a goal, when we were doing something that we find fun. It's the same for them, right? And when they do that thing, they're more likely to repeat that thing over and over again once they feel good when they did it. So if we make it fun, they are more likely to do that thing over and over again. Thus, practice it, get better at it, grow in that skill that we're trying to teach them. So we're going to hide the skill building activities within engaging activities. For instance, balance games. You might be on a trampoline or walking along a cement wall or doing something. And then arts and crafts, that could be another one, playing board games, whatever the thing might be. So next, we're going to talk about another area that we need to look at is providing structure with flexibility. So we have to balance the structure of the activity, because we might be like, the structure might be one of the most important parts of the thing that we're trying to teach. But we also have to be flexible with understanding where the kid's mind is and what they're focusing on and how that focus changes very rapidly at their age, and kind of redirect and bring them back to that structured environment, that structured thing that we're trying to do. That's the tricky part. And that's why we thrive, right, guys? Using visual schedules. So if any of you have ever had a kid that has gone to a preschool, my daughter's preschool is a great example of this. They have up on their wall what thing happens at what time. So they know at this time we're going to be doing this, and at this time we're going outside, and at this time we're going to be doing arts and crafts, and at this time we're going to be doing story time, or whatever the thing might be down their list. We're going to do the same thing, but we're going to be working on those goals. We'll say at this time we're going to be doing something physical. This time we're going to be doing something imaginative. At this time, whatever the thing might be. Okay, so we're going to offer choices too. So sometimes, depending on the kid that you're dealing with, you might get to know them and find out that they're really interested in one thing over another thing. Okay, so maybe we're going to lead them into that thing. So a kid that goes to my church, that is my daughter's friends with, he is really into space. He is really into automobiles and everything that can fly or mechanical based things. At his age, he's just like very mechanical minded. I know his dad, and his dad's an engineer, and it kind of, I don't know if there's anything to say, but maybe some genetics play some effect in that. Like, this kid really thrives in using his imagination to create things and to create cities and other things using like Legos. So we might be like, okay, we're going to do this activity using Legos, but we're going to be working on social skills, or we're going to be working on, we'll be talking about a scenario that you're dealing with at school. How do you deal with it? Let me show me with the little Lego people how you deal with that. Various things like that. So we're using something they're already interested in, and we're incorporating the therapy with that thing. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. If not, it will. Right. So then we're going to incorporate movement breaks. So kids' attention spans are very low. Adults' attention spans are relatively low as well, honestly. Typically a commercial on TV doesn't keep our attention if it's like more than like 20 seconds. Unfortunately, that's the case. And that's something I've learned being a multiple business owner, is that you got to get their attention, grab it, and get the point across, and then give them a call to action so they know what to do, so that during that period of time that you have their attention, you've got it. If you make it too long, a lot of times they're thinking about something else. And kids are even more so. They got like maybe a 5-second attention span, right? They're like, oh, I see something on YouTube, or I see something over here. Oh, I want to go do this. Oh, I want to go play with my friends. Oh, I want to, all the things, right? Kids are just all over the place. Okay, so we need to incorporate little breaks in the therapy. So the point of that is that break might be something just fun for the sake of fun. Okay, but then we're going to come back to the thing. And then we'll go to another break, and we'll come back to something else. And, we're trying to make it interesting. We're bringing it into short little patterns. Kids' brains, their neurons in their brains are firing off rapidly. So they are learning even faster than you and I, right? So we might think, we didn't spend enough time on this thing for us to maybe grasp it. But maybe that kid, at their stage, right? They're sponges, they're learning everything. They're like, I got 5 seconds. I think I got this thing down, or at least basically down, right? Because kids, they don't think very complex yet. But that's the goal, right? We're getting them from point A to point B to point C, etc. The goal is progress, not perfection. Okay, so another thing that recreational therapists need to do to be effective is to adapt activities for all abilities. So we might be dealing with somebody with physical ability needs, or cognitive ability needs, or whatever the thing might be, right? And we're going to modify the equipment maybe. Maybe that's the goal for the thing, so that they can participate. For instance, if we're using a ball, it might be a lighter ball, not as heavy, or larger targets, or a simplified rule system for a game. Might be using adaptive technology, such as switch activated toys, so where they have a switch, they turn on and they turn off, or sensory friendly tools, or virtual reality, or whatever the thing might be. We're adapting it to where they're at, what's appropriate for them, so that we can still work on those goals. And then encourage multisensory participation. So people only retain what they read very little. They only retain what they hear, a little bit more than that, or what they see, a little bit more than that, or what they actually do, even better. Or if you can incorporate multiple sensory things, right? Things that impact our sight, our sound, our hearing, our touch, etc., taste. And those things incorporated together give us the highest learning outcome for whoever we're teaching. So if you're a good teacher, you're going to incorporate multiple learning styles in your teaching. It's kind of like what we do at Smart CE Sub. We don't just do written text. We don't do just video. We don't just do audio. We incorporate it all within the learning environment. The only one we haven't mastered yet at Smart CE Sub is how to be kinesthetic, right? Because we are online a lot of times, and we would love to do that, but until technology allows me to reach through this screen and, shake your hand or whatever the thing might be, that's where we're at right now. We're at the best place we could possibly be for online learning, and that's why we excel. So that's what I think, at least. All right, so, and then we're going to foster social interaction. So we're going to pair kids with similar skill levels. This boosts their confidence. They don't feel like they're, against an opponent that's going to be like way out of their league, or maybe it's somebody too easy and they don't really try, right? We're going to give them just enough challenge, right? By having them at a similar skill level. Use cooperative games like parachute games, relay races, or team building challenges to promote social skills. Encouraging emotional expression, okay, through activities like storytelling, music therapy, role-playing exercises, etc. And with the right structure, flexibility, and creativity, recreational therapy can be an amazing way to support a child's development and make therapy feel like they're playing, right? A lot of times we're masking things as something else, and then we're actually working on a specific goal with somebody, even for adults, right? That's what we do. We're really good at that. All right, now we're going to talk about some recreational therapy interventions that work for pediatrics. We're going to explore some of the best recreational therapy interventions for this age group. One, so let's talk about movement-based activities for physical development. So if we're working on physical development as a goal or anything within that realm, we could be using animal walks or obstacle courses, engaging coordination, strength, and balance throughout those activities, making it fun, right? Adaptive sports and wheelchair games, modified soccer, which is called Powerball. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but there's like this bar that's in front of a wheelchair that acts as a foot. So as they turn the chair, usually it's a wheelchair rugby chair, so the wheels are pointed outwards, and they turn, it kicks the ball and like acts like your foot, right? Modified basketball, wheelchair basketball is another one, or tennis for children with mobility challenges. Maybe it's dance and music-based movement, great for self-expression and coordination, right? Dance is a very coordinated, it's also a very cognitive thing. I know for a fact, so my wife teaches Zumba, and me remembering a series of moves that she has to do in like order, and me do those things. I have to be coordinated physically to do the things, but also have to remember the sequence of moves, right? And that works on a very different part of my brain that I'm not used to. I'm not a great dancer. So I know, secret's out. Anyways, sensory and therapeutic play for self-regulation. So this is another area we're going to have some interventions that work. Okay, so one could be sensory bends and tactile exploration, providing calming and stimulating experiences for sensory sensitive children, kids with autism or various other developmental disabilities. How can we work on these things with that person? Water play and sand therapy helps with motor skills, relaxation, and creativity. Calm down activities, how to self-regulate, anger or anxiousness or whatever the thing may be, like too much energy bouncing all over the place. How do we get them to bring themselves back to a center? So weighted blankets is a great way to do that. Sensory swings. I know that some places I've been have sensory rooms and guided breathing exercises for kids. I mean, it's going to be very basic at this stage, but that's another one that could work. Obviously, if you slow down the heart rate, you're going to slow down excitement. So if you can figure out a way to slow down the heart rate, you're going to naturally decrease anxiety. Social and emotional growth activities. So we might be doing group storytelling and puppet therapy for kids, which shows them scenarios of how to act in certain situations, where we make it fun and engaging. Friendship and social skills groups, guided role play, cooperative games and turn-taking activities, mindfulness and relaxation techniques for kids. Okay, so teaching deep breathing, yoga, guided imagery. And then if you work in a hospital, so here are some interventions that work really great in hospital settings. So hospital-based and medical coping interventions, that could be using a doll, like you bring in a doll to the patient's room and to explain medical procedures and reduce anxiety. Another one would be art therapy for emotional expression. So how are you feeling? What do you hope the scenario to look like? I want you to draw this. Those types of things. Virtual reality distraction therapy. So distractions, I know there's a term that is looked upon negatively, but can be an appropriate tool when used correctly. to address a specific issue. So, for instance, somebody's freaking out, having an anxiety attack, right? And your goal is to get them to a place where they are calm enough to pay attention to learn, right? A recreational therapist might need to incorporate a distraction so that that kid can get to that place where they're able to do the therapy that they're there for, right? It might be a tool that you bring out. It's not the therapy in itself, but it's a tool that you can use as a recreational therapist to get that kid or that adult or whoever you're dealing with into a place where they are able to be taught or able to have these things worked on. Otherwise, they're freaking out. Doesn't matter what you do until you get them calm again. It's not going to be very effective. So the distraction is a great tool. Okay, so each of these interventions helps children to develop key skills while making therapy engaging, interactive, and fun. So when we're working with kids, those are our goals. That's what we're trying to do. All right, encouraging long-term engagement. So when they leave the hospital or the setting or whatever way we are interacting with these kiddos, our goal is to help them to continue growing and continue learning. So to make it the most effective, we're going to celebrate their small wins. We're giving that dopamine rush, right? That feeling of a reward at the end of an activity. That could be from giving them a piece of candy if they do something, or something that they're looking forward to. Maybe it's playtime on a game system, or maybe it's something that is a reward they're looking forward to by doing the thing. Okay, and we're going to celebrate those small wins with that reward. Involve parents and caregivers. Obviously, they're going to be the ones that handle the day-to-day with that kiddo more than anybody else. And if they don't have the skills necessary to do that, right, when that kid leaves, they might just fall back into whatever they were doing before, and maybe progress is lost. So teaching the family members is a crucial step so that they are equipped and ready to go when that kid leaves. Encouraging peer interaction. So as much time as we can where we can get that kiddo to interact with other kids, their same age or older or younger, whatever, but interact with other people. That's a very important thing. And then we're going to make therapy a fun habit. So instead of looking at it like a chore I have to do every day, it's going to be something the kid will look forward to, because, man, every time they see you, the rec therapist, work with them, right, they know that they're going to have some sort of fun, right? They may not even be cognizant of what you're teaching them or what you're trying to grow them in, but they are growing and they are learning, whether or not they want to or not, right? They are. And you being consistent with them and keeping it entertaining and engaging would be the best way to help them to achieve those goals long term. All right, so when something feels like play, guys, kids are more likely to engage, learn, and grow in meaningful ways. All right, guys, now we're on to the wrap-up and takeaways for today. Let's recap some key takeaways from today's lesson. 1, pediatric recreational therapy supports physical, cognitive, and emotional growth through play-based interventions. 2, we're going to use structured flexibility, sensory adaptations, and social engagement to create effective activities. 3, recreational therapy interventions can be like adaptive sports, sensory play, medical coping techniques, and help kids to develop confidence and life skills. And 4, encouraging long-term engagement after they leave your care is essential because they won't be with you forever, right? And so we are going to work on that with our family members and caregivers. All right, that's it for week number 15, folks. Thank you guys so much for stopping by and for watching these videos that we've been putting out weekly now for 15 weeks. Next week, we're going to be going into behavioral health and mental wellness in RT. So 60% of recreational therapists work in that environment, and the rest of us, we have patients that probably could benefit from some of these topics as well. So stay tuned next week for week number 16. As always, recreational therapists, I am so excited to be part of this profession with you, and to be learning alongside you, and to be able to provide resources like Smart CU's Hub and this channel, and entrepreneurship skill building things for RTs. And thank you guys for stopping by. If you haven't already, please help this channel by liking. So hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and stay tuned for next week. And as always, recreational therapists, stay classy.